Good afternoon, everyone. We are 1 year removed. About a year ago at this time, we were preparing for President Trump's inauguration. And I think it's a good time to kind of reflect on the last year and the things that we've been able to accomplish together, working with the President, Republican majority in the House, Republican majority in the Senate. And it all starts with protecting and defending the homeland. And I think that this President made a commitment to the American people when he ran, and as soon as he became President, immediately worked to secure our southern border. And we worked closely with him to ensure that they have the resources to do the things that were necessary to get that border secure. And I've had the opportunity multiple times to visit the southern border, a couple of times during the Biden presidency, at a time when there were literally millions of people who were being released into the country, coming here illegally, being released into the country by the millions. And that changed abruptly when President Trump took office. And so I had the opportunity, with Senator Barrasso and some others, last week to go down there again, and I am telling you, folks, what a difference it makes. The border is secure. There are not people being released into the country illegally, and the Border Patrol could not be happier to actually be allowed to do the job that they are supposed to do, which is to protect the border, rather than dealing with all the other issues with the millions of people who are in this country illegally. And so they couldn't have been happier to have the resources Congress has provided, to have the leadership that President Trump has provided, and the message it sent to people elsewhere across the border that you're not coming here, you're not coming into this country illegally anymore. That has changed dramatically in a way that the Border Patrol is grateful for. And as we think about our priorities, I should say, here, it is securing that border, keeping the country safe. It's about more money in people's pockets, and it's about new opportunities for American families to get ahead. So those are the priorities that we're going to continue to keep front and center as we proceed into this next year. But I think it's fair to say that, at least in this last year, there has been enormous amounts of progress. A border that is secure, a Border Patrol that is now doing their job, and in American communities and cities that are way safer. So Senator Capito is up next.
Thank you. Today is an important day across the street at the United States Supreme Court. It's considering an issue that has been discussed widely. We actually talked about it several months ago with Senator Tuberville leading the way, and that's the issue of transgenders playing in women's sports. Now, you all know that I'm a big sports fan. I played myself. I still play. And I had a daughter who played Division I volleyball, and I got four granddaughters who play. It's just not fair what we've seen happen, being allowed to happen. And 29 states across the nation have put into laws banning transgenders to play in women's sports. It's all the way at the Supreme Court, and the reason I'm talking about it today is our Attorney General J.B. McCuskey and his team argued the West Virginia law before the Supreme Court today. So we'll be anxiously awaiting what the Supreme Court rules on, how they rule, and what kind of bearings this will have on protection of sports for our girls and women to make it fair and safe for our female athletes for the next generations.
I agree with everything you just said.
Good afternoon. Is it appropriate for some Republican senators to argue that we shouldn't even have a debate tomorrow or Thursday on war powers because we don't have troops in Venezuela, therefore it's not applicable, and this should be washed away right away?
We don't have troops in Venezuela. There is no kinetic action. There are no operations. There are no boots on the ground. And I think the question is whether or not there ought to be expedited consideration or privilege accorded to something that's brought to the floor that doesn't reflect what is current reality in Venezuela. And so I think it's very fair for Republicans to question why we ought to be having this discussion right now, particularly at a time when we're trying to do appropriations bills. Obviously, it takes a lot of time on the floor. It's 20 hours, equally divided, an amendment process. And frankly, to me, if you're looking at what the circumstances are in Venezuela today, it was a 2-hour operation. They were on the ground. They were out. It was supporting our law enforcement, and we've got Maduro here. He's going to be tried in this country. It's a huge victory, a huge win for the American people. And the question of whether or not, there ought to be Congress telling the president that he can't do something that he's not doing, and whether that ought to be accorded expedited consideration on the floor of the Senate, I think is a valid question.
Leader Thune, can you say confidently, Leader Thune, can you say confidently that the Justice Department is not being weaponized now that Jay Powell joins the list of Trump critics who are facing a criminal investigation?
I haven't seen charges filed or brought yet. There are allegations out there to which he is responding, but I've said this before, and I think, if the Justice Department is pursuing something, I hope to have a smoking gun or something, because I don't think you trifle with the Federal Reserve, with the central bank. It is critical to the financial markets in this country. It's critical to our economy, and so whatever is happening there, and I don't know what it is, and I think it's hard to comment until we do know what it is. But as I've said before, it better be real and it better be serious.
Leader Thune,
Do you have any optimism about or inclination to move the Crapo, the Cassidy, HSA bill through budget reconciliation, or any health care through budget reconciliation?
We reserve that option. We obviously have legislative vehicles available to us that could be used for reconciliation. But as I've said before, you have to have a reason to do it. And so, we'll be consulting with our colleagues in the House, with the White House, to determine whether or not there's a rationale for moving forward with another reconciliation bill. Clearly, we had a huge reason and rationale for doing it last year, but whether or not that is something that we do this year, it's a tool in our toolbox, it's an option, and like I said, I will reserve comment until we have some opportunity to take a hard look at whether or not there's a legitimate reason for doing it.
Leader Thune,
Are we looking at another military operation in Iran? And what about the president's 25% tariff now on those countries doing business with Iran? One of them, of course, being China. And we have seen over the last number of months what's happened with trade wars and how they've affected American producers and consumers. Are we on the cusp of another trade war with our biggest trading ally, or trading partners like China?
I think there's, for me, and I think you probably know, no secret, I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to the tariff issues, but I do believe it is a foreign, it's a tool. It's a tool that can be used for a specific purpose. And if it's used in a way selectively, in a targeted way that makes sense, if it's to get something to accomplish an American objective, in some cases it might be reciprocity with another country that hasn't been treating us fairly when it comes to trade. There are circumstances in which those tariffs make sense. But I can't speak specifically. I mean, I don't know at this point what the president might have in mind with respect to Iran, but I think all of us here support the Iranian people and giving them a leadership and a government that promotes democracy in their country and gets away from the repression of human rights, which has been all too evident for the past almost half century now in Iran.
On appropriations, a growing number of Democrats are saying they won't support a DHS funding bill without some guardrails and restrictions, like preventing officers from being masked and requiring identification. Are you open to some guardrails, and do you worry about a government shutdown on that front?
I don't think there's going to be, and I say this because I think in both sides, I've said this before, not new information. I think government shutdowns are stupid. I don't think anybody wins. And I hope the Democrats share that view, and if they do, right now at least the appropriations process is moving forward. We're going to vote later today on getting on this 3-bill package. There's another 2-bill package being considered in the House right now to be voted on, I think, before the end of the week, and that would get us up to 8 of the 12 bills passed. What happens with the other bills is still an open question, but I'm hopeful we can move as many of them across the floor of the House and the Senate and get them to the President's desk under regular order. And that remains to be seen, but Homeland's obviously the hardest one, and it's possible that if we can't get agreement, that there could be some sort of a CR that funds some of these bills into next year. But my hope still is, and my expectation is, that there's going to be enough interest in cooperating to get bills through the process in regular order that we can actually execute and getting as many of these, as close to as many of these bills as possible. Shelley has one. She's the chair of the Labor Age Subcommittee, which is between that and defense, it's kind of where the money is, if you will, in the appropriations process, so we've got to get through those too. But my hope and expectation is that we'll have the votes necessary, and the House and the Senate, to transact these bills in the next couple of weeks before the January 30th, 31st deadline, and fund the government the old-fashioned way, the way we should be doing it. Thank you.
Do you have confidence in your own President Obama?